Welcome. I'm Suzie Castle. I'm the Director of International Student Services at Dallas Baptist University, and I'm so glad to be with you today. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about leadership and what I think is the most important part of being an effective leader, and that encompasses everything from our personal leadership with our own families and peer group to our colleagues and students and everywhere in between. And really, it's all encapsulated in one phrase, which for me is, it's all about relationships. Now, I learned this back when I was in college. I had a great mentor. His name was Dr. Don Schweingruber. He was the Dean of Students at the university that I attended. And Don had a great way with people, and he handled everything from discipline meetings to hiring and firing, and yet everybody loved him. And it wasn't just because he always told people what they wanted to hear, but he really cared about them. And so I learned a lot from him. And today I want to share with you 5 skills that I learned from him that I think make relationships flourish. The first one is to listen. It's so important to listen, and not just to the words that people say, but to really understand what they're saying. And oftentimes that means that we have to do some physical things like put down our phone, look away from the computer screen, and stop multitasking and really give people our full attention. It also can mean we have to turn off that "what am I going to say next" switch that's going on in our brain and just listen to what people have to say. Because as we listen to them, it really creates feelings of being valued in that person when they can see that you're paying attention what they have to say. And then as they share more with you, because they feel comfortable, it gives you greater insight into who they are. Another aspect of listening is to listen beyond just the words. Listen to things like, what is their face doing? What is their voice doing? What is their body doing? All of those things also send us signals beyond just our words. You know, if you ask someone how they're doing and they say, "I'm fine," but their eyes are welling up with tears, you know that fine is not actually what's going on. So we need to listen beyond the words and care for people by the things that we read from them beyond just their words. We also need to ask questions. When we ask questions, it shows that we're listening and we're paying attention to what people are saying. And people really value that. It shows that you care about them and that you desire to understand them. It's always good to ask clarifying questions, like if a student says that they're having problems in class, ask which class. Is it math? Is it English? Which class is it? Or sometimes you might want to go a little deeper, ask a bit more of a probing question like, why do you think you responded that way? Or why do you think it made you feel that way? It not only gives you more insight into how they are feeling, but it might also help them think about the situation differently and learn something new. So ask lots of questions. We also want to remember what's important to people. If one of your friends says that they just got a new puppy, the next time you talk to them, ask them how that puppy's doing. Or if you know they really enjoy sports, and maybe ask them on Monday, how was the game on Sunday? Did their favorite team win? Or maybe ask them how their kids are doing. So many of us are doing virtual learning now. How are their kids doing with that? Or how are they doing with their kids doing virtual learning? Because we know it's not just the kids that are impacted by that. So find out what's important to them and follow up with them. They'll be really pleased that you remembered. I mean, think about it yourself. If someone asks a follow-up question with you, doesn't that make you feel valued? We want to make sure people feel valued and cared about. And the last skill that I want to talk about is stories. We need to share our stories. We need to find ways to share our stories that show them that we understand what their story is about. Sometimes that might just be a comparable story. Like, I remember I had a student recently whose father passed away, and that was really hard for him. Well, my father passed away several years ago, and so I could share I remember how life didn't make sense now that my dad was gone, and I could share that story. Or sometimes I might take it a little bit further than just sharing a comparable story, but I might share how I dealt with a similar problem. Not to say that this is how they have to deal with the problem, but to give them hope that, just because they made a mistake or there's a problem, it's not necessarily going to change their life in a negative way. One of the things we need to be careful, though, is that when we share stories, we don't do so in a way that overshadows or competes with their story. We don't want to diminish the pain or the frustration that they are feeling. We just want to show empathy, that we care and that we can relate. So as I talked about those 5 skills, listening, paying attention to the whole person, asking questions, remembering what's important, and sharing our stories, I'd like you to think about which one of those things maybe you could work on. And I'd like to challenge you in this next week to try and do better at that. And then watch those relationships for places where you see growth in that, and then celebrate that, because as we develop those skills, we build stronger relationships, and then as we try to lead people, then they trust us more, and so they are going to follow us. So yeah, so I'm so glad that I could be with you today and share this with you. I am really thankful that you're part of our DU Global community, and thank you for being here.